So first of all, in case you didn't realise, I'm actually David Higgins, not Ed Cable. Ed is on the call. He's joining us, having been out at the MOSIP conference in the Philippines. And we also got Barath joining us as well to go through today's topic, which are the pepper soup enhancements to our Mythos X loan module. So without any further ado, if you have questions, I think there's Q&A enabled. So please feel free to put them in as we go along. And if we get a chance, we will come to those at the end. But other than that, I will hand over to Ed. Welcome, Ed.
Okay, thank you, David. You can proceed to the next slide. And apologies that I don't have my camera on. I don't have the best connectivity here, but Bharat's going to lead most of our webinar today, as he's been the lead business analyst for the project and guided most of the requirements with the customer. But I'm going to start out by giving a little bit of background on the project, both from the business and technical goals, as well as a brief overview of the technical enhancements. And then the majority of today's focus is going to be all of the great functionality that's been added into the loan module on top of Mythos X. But it's going to do that by first taking a modular overview at the BNPL capabilities that were added, then a number of different functional capabilities from the product perspective, and then he's going to do a demonstration of the BNPL as well as the installment loan capabilities that were added, and then we'll close by giving a roadmap of what's to come. So as I noted, I'm going to first start out by giving some broad strokes overview of the project as a whole, really emphasize how important and critical it was that this customer contributed everything back upstream, and then give a little bit more details in terms of the team that helped to deliver on the functionalities, as well as the timeline on the project, and then a glimpse into the technical enhancements, of which we'll schedule a separate webinar to walk through those. So I think we've referred to the Pepper Soup project in the past before, but luckily the Mythos initiative has had the fortune of working with this customer over the past several years. And so we were reached out to by this leading global fintech who had the need to replace their loan management system of record because their legacy system, Temenos, was inhibiting their growth and decreasing the performance of their operations and the high cost of the system, as well as the lack of control and flexibility they had really were constraining their growth of BNP loans in one of their highest growth markets. And so we started out the project with a month-long POC to demonstrate a number of the key scalability metrics that I'll note on the subsequent slides. But this project was highly successful because we were able to bring together multiple partners across the community to deliver on the functionalities needed for the customer. And this has been a multi-year project where we've successfully delivered on each additional phase one by one. And we've been able to deliver everything upstream back into the Fineract and Mythos code bases. On this slide, I just want to call out some of the key metrics we were able to achieve. This project, we estimated that the customer is going to save more than $230 million in license fees just by migrating the two BNPL products over the course of the following 5 years. Our APIs were able to perform significantly better than the Temenos APIs, fivefold here, such to the level that we were able to increase the take rate. So when a customer decided to actually make a loan for their purchase from 14% to 16%, and you can also see the dramatic increases in the close of business loan processing times. And then lastly, we were able to deliver on new functionalities much more quickly than they were with their legacy system. I'll talk more about some of the technical benchmarks we needed to meet when I look at the technical enhancements, but let's focus on one key aspect around the contributions upstream that were so critical to this project. Oh, yeah, okay. Thanks, David, for proceeding the slide along. So I just really wanted to emphasize once again how important it was that the customer at all levels was committed to making their contributions upstream. We had the buy-in from executive leadership. This translated on down to the legal department being able to formulate an agreement which allowed our teams to deliver upstream. And then everybody from engineering to product has been on board with contributing back upstream. And the customer really recognized the key importance of the value of not forking and how costly and difficult it would be to upgrade and continue to maintain the software if they didn't stay upstream. And so the customer has gone out of their way to make sure that all the functionality is made generic enough so it wasn't too type specific to their requirements. And then there's been an immense amount of smooth collaboration between our team as well as their team, as we've been both developing in parallel on the upstream code bases, as well as delivering the build to them such that they could build downstream features on top of the upstream code base. They leveraged the custom module features that Alex had developed such that they could build private specific features for their own unique requirements without having to fork. But then I also just wanted to note that although everything has been contributed upstream, we recognize this is still a journey, as some of the features that we've implemented, they've only been extended throughout the loan module. So we're looking to the community to extend some of these through the other modules. And we have been able to do some refactoring, but there is some technical debt that remains. And then we do recognize that documentation is still work in progress. But this webinar is one of the first steps to making sure the community is aware of all the great new functionality, and we'll soon be updating the user manuals and other pieces of documentation with full details on all these features. I just wanted to give a brief overview of the team that came together to deliver upon these requirements across the multiple years we've been working with this customer. So this is a project that's been owned and guided by the MIFOS initiative. And so we've been owning the project, guiding the relationship with the customer, ensuring that the solution was delivered according to the requirements, and all contributions have been made upstream. And so this has been a good collaboration amongst a number of individual contractors that MIFOS has worked with, as well as a number of teams throughout the community, which I'll talk about on the subsequent slides. So within the MIFOS initiative, I've been owning the relationship with the customer, and then Bharat, who's going to be leading our demo today, he's been the lead business analyst, understanding and analyzing all the customer requirements, and then helping to work with our technical team to actually translate these into features that have been implemented upstream. And then to ensure smooth contributions into the upstream code bases, we've been working closely with Alex Vidakovic and Adam Monson. And then throughout the duration of the project, from the initial POC, we've been working closely with the architects, developers, DevOps, as well as QA and PM resources from the base flow teams based in Hungary and the USA. So Istvan was the senior architect that led the initial design, and then Adam Shaghi has been leading the implementation of the majority of the features throughout the project. And then throughout the past year or so, we've also been working with some other contractors from the Ukraine, both the Beanerix team as well as Onyx Systems. I gave a high-level overview of the timeline here, but really wanted to emphasize once again how this has been a multi-year project where, due to the success of our ability to deliver upstream high-quality software and our teams to work together collaboratively, we've been able to continue extending the relationship, adding more phases to the project. So as noted, we had a quarter-long POC back in December of 2021, where we had to demonstrate our ability to meet the scalability requirements of 10,000 read operations per second, 1,000 write operations per second, and the ability to close the business processing for 2 million loans in under half hour. Luckily, our team was able to successfully meet those benchmarks, and then we moved into a year-long phase of actually building out the technical enhancements as well as the functional ones into the upstream code bases such that the customer could support the rollout of opening all new BNPL loans for their first product for their high growth country. And then after the successful delivery of this project and going live there, we worked on an asset externalization module as the customer had been selling, I think, a $43 billion portfolio of their loans and needed to be able to track the sale of these assets. We delivered that in the course of 2 quarters. And then we worked on migrating and building out the capabilities to move over the second BNPL product, which was then subsequently rolled out to 6 different countries, including the US. And then most recently, we've been working to extend all the capabilities that we've added to support the BNPL products into our interest-bearing installment loans. And so throughout 2024 and the first part of 2025, we've been extending interest-bearing support across the installment loan lending module. And then now we're focused on helping to migrate over 20 million existing loans for the 2 countries where installment loans are in operation. And some key milestones I just wanted to highlight here is that for that first country, the average volumes of new loans that are opened each day are close to 300,000, with that moving up to 500,000 during peak periods like Black Friday. And then for the second BNPL product, there are close to 600,000 loan accounts open each day there, with the high volume peak periods having 1.3 million loans opened up each day. So it's really been a great project to demonstrate the scalability that can be achieved with Mythos X and the ability of our teams to deliver collaboratively and have all this go back upstreams. Once again, I noted here the technical enhancements that we had to meet for the customer, and then I wanted to break down a little bit more of the actual needs they had and the new modules we developed to deliver upon those technical needs. And we haven't yet scheduled the webinar, but we'll get that on the calendar and share the details with you soon. So first off, the customer needed to be able to operate their system 24/7 with no downtime. So they need to be able to run the close of business jobs for 10 million accounts in under 2 hours at end of day to be able to deliver upon reports which needed to be generated within 5 hours. So to do this, we developed a brand new Spring Batch module, which allowed for the parallelized processing of the batch jobs, such that smaller chunks of loans could be processing the batch jobs, having them be soft locked such that real-time inline transactions could occur. We also then introduced the concept of a business state, which was implemented across the loan module. And then to ensure that transactions weren't being duplicated, we implemented transaction idempotency. And then secondly, the customer needed to achieve a high scalability during the peak holiday times as their existing legacy system of record, Temenos, didn't allow them to meet the performance that they needed to meet. So first off, we added support for PostgreSQL database as well as Eclipse Link at the JPA layer. And then we did the necessary tuning, optimization, and indexing to achieve that scalability. And then we also introduced separation at the read, write, batch API layer, such that you could run dedicated X instances for specific read, write, or batch operations. And then lastly, the customer needed to integrate the system of record into their downstream systems to report back in real time all the information to a customer about these loans. And then they also had highly specific regulatory requirements that needed to be met. And so in order to achieve this, we introduced a brand new reliable real-time event framework built on Kafka and ActiveMQ, such that real-time business events can be streamed into their downstream systems, both for customer operations as well as accounting and regulatory reporting. You can proceed to the next slide, David. I just wanted to close before we move on to the functional demonstration from Bharat with a quote here from one of the vice presidents at this global fintech. They were extremely pleased with the ability of our team to deliver, as well as the performance of the software, because we've been able to go for each of these rollouts from test transaction to 100% live in a rapid amount of time with everything working quite well. So knock on wood that we continue to deliver on the successful relationship with this customer. And with that, I'll pass it on to Bharat, who's going to give you an overview of the new functionalities in the loan module.
Yeah, hi everyone. I hope you can see my screen. Yeah, so thanks Ed for giving a quick background on the technical enhancements we made and on the projects and how we were able to scale so much of API processing in such a small time. So coming to functional capabilities, as Ed was mentioning on the timeline deliveries, right? So I have categorized that into two phases for functional. So in phase one, we delivered a non-interest bearing short-term buy now pay later loans, which had most of the functionalities, which I'm gonna explain to you now. That was the phase one. Like what we took like Q1, Q2, Q3 of 2020 four, I believe. So phase two, once the phase one was successful and once everything was running fine in the production, so we concentrated more on their complex long-term loans, which are basically which involves interest accruals. I guess like so. Whenever interest is involved, recalculation, the complexity increases, and that became the longest phase two. We had to extend all the features what we made during non-interest bearing to support interest bearing, as well as we build some new enhancements for interest bearing products. So just to simplify for this demo. So we have categorized all the features into three main modules. So one is the repayment schedule module, other is the transaction, and the last one is the accounting module. So when it comes to repayment schedule, which is the bigger chunk of enhancements what we make, because it involves like interest calculation, installments, EMI, etc. So we had most of the, I believe like 60 to 70% of the enhancements are on the repayment schedule. So which involves, we had to introduce a new type of schedule calculation called progressive. In coming slides, I will talk about what progressive is and what cumulative is, etc. And we introduced a new advanced repayment strategy. And we have made some changes to support buy now pay later module on the validations we had with respect to approval amount, dispersal amount, etc. And transfer disbursements, like Finaract existing module has been enhanced to support smooth multiple disbursement on the loan, and some capabilities on the reschedule, as well as we made couple of changes on the charge section as well. So coming to transactions, so buy now pay later has a few credit transactions. As we know, Finaract was initially built for to support microfinance loan. From there we started, and then we started supporting um, personal loans and NBFC kind of loans. So coming to buy now pay later, it has its own specific transactions like refunds, goodwill credit. Those are the new type of credit transactions which we analyzed and we incorporated into our loan system. And we also introduced new um, uh, concept called charge off. And since we have come up with all these new things, our reprocessing also had to be enhanced to improve the performance, as well as the the loan would not, shuffle of the amount. So we had to introduce a new type of replan reprocessing. And accounting related, so whatever new transactions or new enhancements we made, we had to have a new mappings for that to make sure the accounting entries are like tracked to those transactions. And the accrual, so basically the client uses the accrual type of accounting, and we had to come up with the new accrual changes to support the need. The last but not the least is the externalization. This is same as the project Danube what Ed mentioned. So we call that as project Danube externalization, investor module, etc. So I will talk more on that when we come to that slide. So the next slide, I will go more in depth of each repayment schedule related changes what we make. Okay. So coming to progressive schedule type. So as I said, our basic out of the box schedule type is the cumulative. So in that, we need to change it to progressive schedule type. When we change to progressive schedule type, we plan to make it more flexible and fully configurable for the users. So we implemented two type of allocation order. One is horizontal and the vertical. And we have also changed the EMI calculation formula and the interest calculation formula when the progressive schedule type is calculated. Next is advanced repayment strategy. MIFOS used to support like 4 to 5 fixed repayment strategies. So, and again, so our main concept was, while we support, like the client feature, we also wanted to make sure like we will make it more configurable so that any kind of configuration should be possible for any organization. So keeping that in mind, advanced repayment strategy was designed where each and every amount can be configured in a priority order as required by the client. So for example, like principal, advanced principal can be first priority, and then we can go to due principal, and then the advanced interest. So and so I'll talk more about that in the coming slides. And next is the excess amount allocation. So whenever the customer pays advance amount, usually by default it always used to allocate to the next installment. So we have given an option here where user can again go to the level of like configuring whether that excess amount has to go to next installment or the last installment, or it should be equally distributed among all the installments, or it has to go to next and the last installment together. So as you can understand, now the repayment schedule is so configurable that any type of configuration can be achieved with all just drag and drop and selecting different options in Fineract. So as I said, amount related changes, we have reduced the like the validations or conditions which was built between the submitted amount, approval amount, disbursement amount, which was more focused on microfinance loans. Now we have removed that barrier that dispersal amount we can set more than the approval amount or the submitted amount. And installment date calculation, so we have given flexibility that it can start from the loan submitted date or from the disbursement date. And lastly, we have also implemented a down payment system where during the disbursement, a certain percentage or a flat amount of amount can be made as paid on the disbursement date itself. Okay, so I'll pause for a moment and check if there is any Q&A.
No, there's nothing at the moment. You can continue.
Sure. Okay, so the next set of repayment schedule related changes were the trans disbursement enhancements. So Fineract was, like offering a trans disbursement, but it was planned. So user had to add the plan the future disbursement and add it, which was more like a housing finance loans. But when it comes to buy now pay later, so disbursement can happen without plan, right? So we had to make enhancements to support that. And so we have also enabled the option to do a disbursement on a closed loan. So I mentioned here closed loan as per the MIFOSEX or a Fineract term, but when we look into buy now pay later, so when the customer pays fully, it means that the loan is fully paid. It doesn't mean that it's closed. So user should be able to do a disbursement on the fully paid loan as well. So that's why we have enabled that option too. Coming to reschedule enhancements, we have introduced a new type of reschedule called re-aging, re-amortization, interest modification, and pause interest. So interest now can be modified in middle of the loan, like at the installment level. So we do not have to rely on, configuring a floating interest rate or a fixed interest rate at the loan creation time. So we can just like go and reschedule a enhancement, select the installment, and we can say the interest rate will change from particular installment right away. So pause interest is something interesting that we can this is not the grace pause. So basically we Fineract has a concept called grace interest. So basically what that grace interest will do, it will not apply the interest for that period of days what we configure or the installment, but that period of days cumulated interest will be collected in the next installment after the grace period. But here pause interest, if we pause, let's say for 10 days from 1st of January to 10th of January, those 10 days interest will not be calculated. So the interest would be zero for those 10 days for the full loan cycle. Coming to re-aging and re-amortization, these two are a very good feature according to me, because it allows it enables the like the flexibility for the user, especially the one who are in overdue or defaulted. It gives the flexibility to like configure their schedule and the EMI, and new set of installments will and new EMI will be created for the defaulted loans as well. That is re-aging. So re-amortization, all the like overdue amount will be equally distributed to the next installment, and the loan will move out of overdue. So these are the benefits what organization can now give through MIFOSEX to the customers. Coming to the last but not the least is the charge related enhancements. We didn't make much on the charge related because we already had a good flexible and configurable charges. Few changes what we made is that we enable to add charges on the matured loan as well, because in buy now pay later, as I said, there is no closed loans concept, it's just fully paid loan. So we had to enable addition of charge on matured loans. And we have introduced to add charges after maturity date as well. So these charges, whenever we add, it is tightly coupled with installment. So it will just, whenever whatever the date we add the charge, it has to be collected on the next installment date, right? So what about a charge added after the maturity date? So to solve that problem, we introduce something called as n plus 1 installment, where any charge created after the maturity date, we create a new installment in the schedule explicitly for that charge to be paid and collected. So these are the repayment schedule related changes we have made with respect to Pepper Soup. Coming to transaction related, we have introduced new transaction type, as I said later, so earlier, sorry. So we have introduced refunds, which are like merchant refund, payout refund, and we have introduced a new concept called chargeback. So chargeback is quite interesting. I will show that in the demo, that whenever we initiate a chargeback on a particular installment, the amount will be add to the next installment to be collected from the customers. So what I mean is, I think you will be familiar with the concept called reversing a repayment, right? So you make a repayment, and after number of days, we'll come to know that the repayment is wrong, or the bank rejected that repayment. So you will go and reverse the repayment. When we do a reversal, what happens? Our loan balance will increase, and the customer has to pay that amount again. But let's say, so if the organization comes to know about that transaction failure after a couple of months, right? So they cannot go back and undo all the repayments and correct the transactions. So it will have its own complications on the accounting side and book closures, etc. So we introduce a concept called chargeback, where a repayment which has to be reversed, we'll go to that repayment and we will click on chargeback. What chargeback will do, the amount of that particular repayment or lesser than that repayment amount to, will be added to the next future installment to be collected from the customer. So the principal and the loan balance will be increased, and customer will pay that amount back as a part of next installment. Goodwill credit, it's again a type of like a benefit given to the customer. So a goodwill credit will reduce the loan balance of the loan account. So interest waiver is tightly coupled with a refund. So what happens whenever a merchant refund happens? um, I think, okay, so interest waiver, interest, whatever the interest is, like calculated or accrued till that date, that interest would be waived. So we made a lot of changes on the loan status change as well. So I also spoke about charge off a couple of minutes back. So charge off is a concept like a soft write-off. So what we do in a write-off state. So we write off a loan which will mark all the outstanding amount as an expense written off, and the loan would be marked as write-off. It will no longer be active anymore, right? Which it happens when the client is deceased, or like is defaulted and not available. So, but what charge off does, it does exactly what write off does, but only at the accounting level. But from the loan perspective, the loan will still look like active, and all the monetary transaction and interest calculation happens as a normal loan. So this is benefited when our client is default, but like the organization still wants to collect through other means, through a recovery agent or similar. And delinquency bucket. So for default loans or a overdue loans, now customer can do a configuration of their own custom delinquency buckets at the loan level, and system will, at the end of the day, system will calculate and like display the particular overdue loans falls into which bucket. Again, delinquency buckets we is implemented in such a way at the bucket level, and the number of overdue level is configurable. So as per the organization, they can configure the number of days each bucket should be overdue, and system will accordingly will populate the loans or installment at that particular buckets. And so it is the delinquency bucket classification is not only at the loan level. Now we also support at installment level. So basically at each installment which is overdue, system will say, okay, the installment one is overdue and falls into bucket 1 and 2, and the installment 2 is overdue and falls into bucket 2. So depending on the number of overdays. So delinquency pause also we have introduced, that if the customer is overdue based on a genuine reason and is requesting the organization to like do a consider the delinquency bucket what the organization has applied. So basically, um, organization can do a delinquency pause. So delinquency pause, when it is applied, the overdue calculation would be paused for that many days where delinquency pause is configured. And CBR, credit balance refund. So whenever the loan is overpaid, as I said, there is no concept of close loan at all, right? So basically in Finarac, when the loan is overpaid, the loan will move into a overpaid state and no any other transaction can be performed. So what we have done, we have given an option called credit balance refund on the overpaid loans. So what happens when a loan is overpaid to you? So we will return that overpaid amount to the customer, right? So and the loan will again become a fully paid loan. So when a CBR button is clicked, a new transaction is enabled where the overpaid amount will be transferred back to the customer account and loan will become a normal active fully paid loan. So, as I said earlier, replay and reprocessing. Because of all the new transaction types we introduce, especially the chargeback, refunds, etc. So we had to, like think and redesign our reprocessing logic. Um, so basically, when does replay and reprocessing happen? Whenever there is a backdated repayment or a back transaction reversals. So we had to process each and every transaction in the same order it was created, so that like the transactions will should not be applied like in a jumbled way and the loan interest would be affected. So we had to come up with a new chronological reprocessing order where whenever a reverse replay is triggered by a reversal or a backdated repayment, the system will quickly reapply the loan in the same order the transactions were applied. So this is something was interesting and much needed, which solved a lot of problems at that time. Okay. So moving on to accounting related. So buy now pay later supports the accrual type of accounting. So as we were working on changing the interest and EMI formula, so we had to work on a new formula for accrual calculations as well. And and here we need to give an option to accrue the interest from the disbursement date itself. By default, accrual starts from the disbursement date plus 1. So we had to enable an option where interest calculation starts from disbursement date itself. And a new type of transaction we have introduced, which is accrual activity transaction. This is not a monetary transaction. This is something like a periodic accrual where it cuts off at each installment level what is the accrued interest. So this is required from the accounting team to know what is the accrual activity done at the installment level. And on the new accounting mapping side, we have introduced all the new all the new parameters to the new features what we developed, like charge off, goodwill, credit, etc., to support the accounting for the new charge off. And so accounting write off, as I said, it is same as charge off, where whenever a charge off is triggered, an accounting write off will happen in the accounting side. externalization or a denube. So basically what we have implemented is just a phase one of denube project, also called as investor module or externalization. So what is this externalization? Like Ed was mentioning, I don't remember recall the amount basically. So but the client will like the organization will sell a certain percentage of their portfolio to other vendors. So basically we need to support, we need an option, we needed an option to support this portfolio transfer to other vendors in Finarac. So we came up with a concept called investor module or externalization. So here what we do, we give an option to sell a loan at a loan level. So when you click on a sell a loan, so the all the outstanding balance, which is nothing but the loan portfolio, will be moved to a selected investor. So let's say if we select an option like us owner one, and if we click on sell, so all the portfolio will be transferred from Pepper Soup organization to owner one organization. So this transfer happens at the accounting level. So the portfolio will be moved from Pepper Soup to owner one. So and this is tracked, like since this is a iterative process, that is that the same loan can be buyback by the Pepper Soup again. So that option was given, and it can be sold to another owner as well. So we had to develop that as a complete feature. So since this is mostly on the portfolio side, we had to change trial balance report to support the externalization. So these are the major feature module which we have developed to support the complete buy now pay later products in Mifosx or Fineract. So any questions? Okay, so the next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give some background or mainly explain what major changes was made when it comes to the loan module. So these are all again what I explained, but these are very critical and major changes. So coming to progressive. So as I said previously, cumulative is what is the existing behavior. Cumulative, what it does is it used to calculate the schedule based on every disbursement that was happening on the loan. For example, I hope this is clear. For example, when a first disbursement was made of $100, let's say the number of installment was four. So the four installments had an equal EMI of 25, 25, 25. Let's say a second disbursement came in after repayment one. Still, system used to cumulate these two as 200 and equally distribute the amount as a 50, 50, 50, 50. So even the repayment was one was 50, repayment two was 50, three was 50, and four was 50. In progressive, what we are doing, we are applying the like the installment EMI only to the future installments after the disbursement is done. For example, if you take the same example, disperse of 100 distributed as 25 for each four installment. When a second disbursement comes in after the first repayment, so this 100 will be only distributed to the future installment. That is, in this example, only the three installments will be now be divided of this 100. So 25 plus the remaining will become the 58.33. The repayment one will still be 25 because it had only one disbursement. So this is the major change what we made uh, in the progressive calculation. So I just added a slide on what is the formula we use to calculate the interest, and how the interest calculation is being made and how we are arriving at the EMI with the new formula. So I've also added a link to a spreadsheet which gives a clear examples of how the formulas is using and how we can create a schedule from the Excel itself. So this is just for information purpose. The next one I want to talk about is the advance payment allocation. So as I said, whenever the main concept when we kept in mind when we were implementing this is we wanted to make it as configurable as possible. So one major thing what we made was to uh, introduce the advanced payment allocation, where user can select the allocation rule or the priority of the amount to be allocated at the each portion level, meaning we can broadly classify that as a past due amount, due amount, and in advance amount, right? In that, penalty, fees, principal, interest. So dividing this into all 12 portions, the user can configure each order required. And the best part is this can be configured at the transaction level, meaning so this when we set this as default, this will behave the same way for all transactions. Let's say if we configure, let's say if I select a goodwill credit, here I'm in the second screenshot, I'm selecting goodwill credit. For goodwill credit transaction type, okay, I can say the amount has to go to past due principal first and next due principal, whereas for default it was past due penalty, past due fees. So whenever a goodwill credit happens, the amount will first allocate to the past due principal, but whenever a normal repayment or another happens, first it will go and allocate to past due penalty. So this is the flexibility what we have given, where at each transaction type level we can configure the allocation order in required uh, like priority. So coming back to loan processing, so I talked about, I just so now I just talked about the allocation, right? So the next slide talks about in which order this allocation has to happen. So we can select in which order the allocation should happen at the installment level. So there are two type of orders possible. One is horizontal and the vertical. When we select horizontal order, whenever a payment comes in, first it will select the installment which is not paid, and it will try to allocate in the same installment in the horizontal way, and then any excess amount it will apply to the next installment again in the horizontal way. So it goes on checking the not paid portion and starts applying the paid amount in the horizontal way. When we select the vertical way, so as per the remember, as per the allocation priority what we have set before. So if we set the vertical loan processing, whenever a amount is marked paid, it will start applying in the vertical fashion. That is, let's say when a 250 payment comes in this example, first it will look for past due amount in this first installment. If it is paid, it will go to the next installment principal, and then it will go to the next installment principal, and then like it go to interest and penalties, or vice versa, as per the a priority we have set in the advance allocation. So this is on the how the loan amount will be allocated, whether it's in horizontal or vertical level. So coming to delinquent bucket classification, as I said, so user can define the range required, and he can also configure the number of days overdue to be classified for that range. So once this range is defined, overdue loan at the close of business will automatically will be applied to that particular bucket. In this screenshot example, a loan 37 is overdue more than a 240 days. So you can see that the loan belongs to a delinquency range 240. So in bracket is the number of days overdue. So it's overdue more than 241 days. This is the loan level. If we talk about the installment level, so it if you see here, I don't know if it is readable, but if you just notice, the first one is the loan level bucket, it says. In the second one, it shows like the each installment level. So the one installment is overdue for more than 30 days, 31 days to be exact, with amount 348 euros. the another installment, basically two installments are overdue, and the other installment is overdue by 3 days, bucket 3, and 4 days overdue to be exact, and the amount is 258. So each installment level we will know like it is overdue by how many days and it falls into which bucket. So this is the delinquency bucket classification that has been implemented. And talking about down payment and N+1 installment, as I said, down payment, as the name says, it is the down payment to be made at the time of disbursement. So whenever a down payment is set and a disbursement is made, system will automatically create an installment entry on the disbursement date itself, which is a down payment. In this example, 1,000 is a loan to be disbursed, and so 10% was the down payment set. So as you can see, installment is created on the disbursement date itself for $100. So 6th January 2025, our user made a down payment of $100, and the remaining 900 amount will be equally distributed among the actual installments. So here the maturity date is 6 July 2025, right? So the next screenshot talks about the N+1 installment. Let's assume a user created a charge on August 1st, 2025. So there is no way that that charge can be added to 6 July, right? So because the current date is way past July now. So system will create a new installment entry called N+1 installment of August 1st for $10 if a charge is added. Let's say another overpaid amount, another charge is added for a different date, then the N+1 installment would be, like updated within the latest charge date, and the amount would be summed up, meaning 5th August, another charge was added, let's say a penalty or a snooze fee, etc. So the N+1 installment date would be 5th August. The amount would be some like 10 plus 20, like that. Okay. So the next major rescheduling features what we have introduced is reamortization and re-aging. So this is a benefit most of the organization, at least as I've seen, gives to the customer who are overdue or struggling to pay their current installments on time. So the first one is reamortization. What reamortization will do, it will take the overdue amount as of that current date and it will equally distribute that amount to the remaining future installment. In this example, a customer is on like 6th of April or 5th of April and is overdue by 150 euros. The for one installment is overdue, 150 is uh, overdue amount. So when the customer requests so that he cannot pay that amount and he wants to pay that as part of the next installments. So when we click on re-amortization, so $150 would be equally distributed to 6th April, 6th May, 6th June, and 6th July. So 150 divided by 4. So that will be equally added to the each installment. So the reamortization and re-aging we have currently implemented only for non-interest bearing loans. We are still in process of gathering requirement to support the interest bearing loans as well, meaning how interest has to be recalculated once the amount is equally distributed to the next installments. So re-aging does the same, that it gives benefit to the customer to come out of that, not able to pay the loan. So but it is useful when the loan is past the maturity date. That is, if we take this example, he paid only two installments, 6th January and 6th February. The remaining five installments are not paid, and right now the date is like July 10th or something. So now he comes and requests that he can pay in a smaller amount or a bigger amount in coming days, so to avoid the penalty or the, like the CIBIL score, etc., etc. So what organization can do at that time is they can take the whole or overdue amount, in this case 750, and he says, okay, I can pay in the next 3 months, starting from 14th July. So the complete outstanding amount 750 will be divided into three installment for the next 3 months. So in this example, 750 will be divided by 3, which is 250 each, and you will be able to pay in next 3 months, 14 July, 14th August, and 14th September. The previous installments would be marked as nil. So uh, whenever the whenever we check the overdue or the delinquents, so these customer will not come into that bucket, because old installment would be uh, like completely nullified, uh, and the new installments would be added. Same case with reamortization also, but here, whichever the installment is overdue and not paid, only that would be nullified. But in re-aging, since he's coming and paying after the maturity date, all the old installments would be nullified and new installments would be created. So the next is the investor module. So again, this is we have implemented only at the phase one level. The phase two is still in business requirement gathering phase. So as I said, so this is investor module is nothing but the asset transfer or a portfolio transfer from one organization to another. So this is some screenshot what I've added. A loan where we can click on sell loan or a cancel loan. When we click on sell loan, effective date is 18 March. Here we are trying to sell a loan, which is balance is 750 euros to a external owner called NBFC 1. So our loan, there will be a close of business step, so that will process whatever the initiated transfers, and once it is successful, the accounting will be moved from owner 1 to NBFC 1. So this is a search screen where it will give a complete list of loans and what are its states and to whom the portfolio has been transferred. So I've added a diagram for flowchart of how this module will look. First, a transfer is initiated at the close of business. If the loan has a more outstanding, so it will be made active and accounting entry would be like made. If in some cases, if the account is fraud or something, so the organization who sold will have an option of buying back as well. So during the COB, there is a chances of the transfer being cancelled. Let's say if the loan got paid on the same day or something, the transfer will be cancelled, or it can be declined by the owner itself. So these are the features what we have done as part of Buy Now Pay Later Pepper Soup project. So now I will show you on the demo side or the application real time. I will show you two particular loan products. One is that the short term non-interest bearing loan, and the other one is the long term interest bearing loan. So I've created two products for this demo. I'll just quickly show the configurations of the features I just explained now. So this is the loan edit screen, which I've configured previously to walk you through in this call. So So this is the progressive loan schedule I was talking about. When we look at the loan schedule, there are two options now, cumulative and progressive. When we select cumulative, it gives the same options as it was giving before, that we can select the predefined allocation strategies required. But when we select progressive, it automatically selects the advanced payment allocation strategy, and we can select the loan processing type, whether it's a horizontal or a vertical. So once this is done, as you can see now, we will get a new option called payment allocation. Here we can literally drag and drop the order we need. That is like, let's say this is the transaction type, right? So explicitly you're looking for a specific order for a repayment. We'll just select repayment and we'll say, okay, when the repayment comes in, I need to collect first due principal. So that should be the first priority. and then the past due principal, and then the past due interest, and then the due interest. So like this way, each transaction level we can configure uh, the priority order allocation required, and what should happen for the excess amount paid by the customer, whether it has to go to next installment or a last installment or next to last or reamortize equally. So all this can be set at the transaction level. So this is the changes what we made on loan trans disbursement. We are disallowing the expected disbursements. So user may not have to, like plan the disbursement before the loan creation itself. And down payment, as I said, like we can, and when once we enable down payment, we have to define the percentage of down payment required. As per the set percentage, that particular amount would be marked as down paid when the disbursement happens. And this is where the delinquency bucket is configured. I have created one bucket called basic delinquency bucket, since that's why that is the only option in the drop down. We can also create multiple buckets and select a different bucket for different products. And we can enable or disable the installment delinquency using this option. Okay, so these are the major changes what we have made. And when it comes to terms, as I said, we made some validation relaxation when it comes to the amount. So that can be done here by clicking on allow approval disbursement above the loan applied amount. We'll set what is the threshold required to be allowed, whether it's a percentage or a fixed amount. So we have set like percentage 50 or percentage 100. So whatever the loan amount is there, it will allow greater than that amount mentioned here. And installment date, whether it has to start from disbursement date or submitted date, can be configured here. Okay, so once all this is done, I will also show you the delinquency configuration. So this is where we create our delinquency range. I have configured like 1 to 240 range here. But if you click on delinquency range, we can have our own delinquency days configured. Like let's say bucket 1 is like 1 to 30 days. And once the range is created, we will go and create a delinquency bucket like second product, and we'll select the range bucket 1, etc. So now I have a second delinquency bucket where like we can, which whatever the loans which falls into 1 into 30 days will be allocated to bucket 1. Of course, first this delinquency bucket should be mapped to loan product. So now it should come under drop down of delinquency bucket. So we can select a delinquency bucket here. Okay, so these are related to the loan product level, how we can configure and enable the different types of features what we have developed. So I'll quickly show you the loan account level, different transactions and whatever possibilities available. I've created few loans for the demo today. So these are like short-term loans. And okay, so okay, anyway, I opened the long-term loan. This is a long-term loan created. Long-term loan is a interest-bearing loan. We have made the calculation formula. As per the new formula, the EMI will be calculated and the interest will be calculated. So the transaction, we have made the accrual changes too. So as you can see, I have, like calculated the accrual for each day. The system is showing the accrual each day, and accrual activity is something which happens on the installment date. So, so for these, so the COB job should run every day to create these accruals and accrual activity on the loan account. So the delinquency tags will be shown here. As you can see, this loan was overdue. It will also show the history that the loan was overdue first time for 31 to 60 days and from 18 March to 18 March. So basically this is because I was playing with the business date. So coming to the different transactions available, right? So different payment, new transaction, what we introduce are under the payment section, that merchant issue refund, payout refund, interest payment waiver, goodwill credit, and re-age and reamortization are available here. Of course, it is now supported only for non-interest bearing loans. A charge off can be made using a charge off button, and a new disbursement can be made directly without any uh, like planning of the disbursements. So now you can see two disbursements here. The one is on 1st January of 10,000 and outstanding is 461,130 first installment. When I did a second disbursement of 5,000 on 2nd February, the future installment, that is from 1st March, only got changed, like it got increased to 700. So when I make a goodwill credit, I'll show you like advance allocation. So I made an excess payment. So as you can see, the installment 2nd February was completely made and the remaining amount was adjusted to the last installment. So this is because at the product level I've configured advance amount has to allocate to last installment for goodwill credit type of transaction. So first it allocated horizontally due interest principal, and then it went and collected to the last installment due interest and principal. So but the repayment have configured to go to next installment. So if I make a regular repayment on 2nd February or yeah. So that will go and collect the next installment only, the 1st March one. I think we have over time already. So Ed, David.
Yeah, please continue going, Bath.
Okay.
We've let people know we're running and obviously catch up on the recording.
Awesome. Okay. So talking about charge off, I can show you charge off now. Let's say what happens if we do a charge off. We have to select a reason for charge off, and when we submit, I think, let me change the business state. So let's say if I want to make a charge off on 1st of March, so system will calculate the what is the interest to be paid off 1st of March, and only that amount interest will be charged off. Okay. Monetary transaction is already posted. So I did a charge off now as of 18th. So the calculated interest as of 18th for March was 1497 calculated, and a charge of transaction was created and respective accounting entries also created. So here accounting level we are doing a complete expense. So if you notice, the complete principal balance is going to expense account, which is the credit loss or bad debt. So but on the portfolio side, the loan is still active and overdue, and it also still accepts all type of payments, make repayment or other payments as well. So this is a charge of capability, meaning like accounting write-off available right now. So I can also show re-aging and reamortization. For that, I will take a non-interest bearing loan example. So this loan is overdue for 400 dollars. So if I do a re-aging now, so or rather reamortization now, that 400 will be equally distributed among the remaining four installment. So it should be 250 each, I believe. So we'll go and click on reamortization. We'll select the reason like client was not well, or we'll just select like if he has a genuine reason of not paying, we are giving him a second option of paying that overdue among the future installments. As you can see now, all the overdue installment has been nullified, and that 400 has been equally divided among the four installments. So 400 divided by 4 is 100. So 100 plus 150, all he has to pay 250, 250, 250 in the coming installment date. So 1 August is a charge added after the maturity date. For this loan, the maturity date is 1st of July or 6th of July, but a charge was added on it doesn't have a date. Wait one second. For this, the charge was added on 1st of August. Due date was 1st of August. So hence the system created a n plus 1 installment for 1st of August. So this is on the a re-amortization. So we are also given the backward compatibility that any reamortization can be undone also. The loan will move into the regular state. If in case if the reamortization was done to a wrong loan account, that can be corrected as well. Re-aging, what it does, let's say if the loan is not paid and we have crossed the maturity date, we will take another loan example. So right now it's 6 July. If we move a business date to somewhere in August, so now all the installments would be overdue, and so the customer comes and say, okay, so he needs to re-age this particular loan, that he cannot pay is overdue. Now he needs a new installments, and he wants to pay the remaining balance in next 6 installments from, let's say, August of 1st. So we will click on re-aging. This loan is okay. We will select the number of installments he wants to pay now, and he wants to pay whether in weekly or monthly days. So here it's every 1 month. For 6 months he wants to pay. And what is the start date? Say August 1st. So now if we see the schedule, so all the installments are nullified till the maturity date, and new installments from August 1st is created, where the outstanding amount is equally distributed for the next 6 months. So now the customer can pay his installments as per his convenience. Okay, so we have following things coming up in the next quarter. So as we know, like re-aging and reamortization, it's now only for non-interest bearing. We will support it for interest bearing loans as well. We are gonna extend the asset externalization for interest bearing loans, and we are gonna support full merchant lending loan products. um, where like features like origination fees are now being, um, development in phase in progress for this to support merchant lending. And there are plans of automating the financial year ending closure also. So Finera currently support only manual financial year ending, so we are planning to automate that. And as Ed was saying there was some code depth, so we are also working on refactoring and improving the performance much more. Yeah, and also extend the business date concept in the coming days. Over to you, David.
So just to remind you of a few calls we have coming up very shortly. So the first one we actually have is this Thursday, 3 o'clock UTC time, which is the Ask Me Anything. We may even think of a prize or a sticker or something like that for the person that asked the most random anything question to myself and Ed. And that's both our programs that we're participating in this year, DMP 25, which is run by the Code for GovTech team, and our GSOC 2025. You can register for that now using the QR code you can see on the screen. And this year, our projects span across all four of our Mifos projects. Mifos Gazelle, which is our DPI as a solution deployment tool, Payment Hub EE, which is our payment orchestration DPG, our mobile applications portfolio projects, as well as the Mifos X DPG that Bav's been going through in detail today. The other call for your diaries, a little bit more notice this one. Thursday the 29th of April will be our next community call, where we'll update you on what we've been doing as a community over the first quarter of the year, and what's going to happen in quarter two. So definitely worth registering for that one as well. And finally, we've done a lot of webinars in Q1. It's been absolutely great. But if you have an idea for a webinar, either one that you want us to do, a topic you want us to discuss, or something, an integration or functionality that you've been working on that you would like to demo to the community, please do let us know. You can email Ed or myself, or our generic email at dpi.mifos.org. Thank you very much for joining with us today. Thank you hugely to Bat for going through that. It's great level of detail in the slides, but then to actually see it in the demo as well, it's really brought it to life. So a huge thank you for the work you've put in demonstrating that today. And thank you for Ed joining very late today to do the introduction at the front end. We hope to see you on one of our calls very soon. And as I said, the full video of this, if you missed anything, want to recap it or anything else, will be on our YouTube channel, which is YouTube at MeFosOrg1, and that'll be up end of this week. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Have a good rest of the day and a good rest of the week. Thank you.